I want to introduce you to the third generation Missy Trap. We call this the third generation because it has a different size mesh from the original Missy. The original Missy was made when we were still volunteering with the Golden Retriever Rescue Group, and we used the larger mesh because all the dogs we were catching were big dogs. Now that we're the retrievers and we can be asked to catch any size of dog, we decided to build the next generation of Missy with this smaller mesh. The other big difference in this trap is that we use a side swinging door now. We found that without a big frame or a big threshold at the bottom, dogs are more willing to enter it, and it takes less time to condition them. So I'm going to take you through the details on this trap. I may not have time to do a true tutorial step by step, but I think if I show you enough details, you may be able to figure it out on your own. So the panel size, these panels come in 16 feet widths and 5 feet tall. After using this trap a couple of times, I decided for my vehicle to cut it down 4 inches, so I actually lopped off 4 inches, but normally that's, you know, that high. You don't have to do that if it fits well in your vehicle. I also made all my panels 34 inches wide instead of a standard 36. Again, the 36 inch, if that fits in your car, that would make a slightly roomier trap. I have not found a really big difference in the volume just by making that change. Now, even though the rest of these panels are 36 inches wide, the gate panels, even on the 36 inches trap, 36 inch panel trap, I cut to 34 inches because it just seems the frame, these wooden boards here, just fits better on a 34 inch wide gate panel. So, and it's still plenty wide, as you can see. So, third generation, like the second generation, well, let me back up. The first generation Missy, not only did it have the larger grid, it also used a hanging bait system. And we quickly realized that some dogs don't like to go for that hanging bait, or they're scared of the rope or something. So we developed this very non-invasive way of triggering the gate, which we call the Raytripper. It's a garage door sensor that sends an invisible beam across the back of the trap, hits that reflector, and bounces back. And when it connects, when it's connected like it is right now, there is a current running to the front of the trap, and it is providing power to this magnet right here. Now, when the dog breaks that beam, the power is cut off and this magnet releases, and because there's a spring action on this door, the door will close. So I'll just demonstrate that really quickly. I'm backing up, and there it goes, and it latches with these 3 gate latches. It's a pretty good swing on this door, but I sometimes like it even snappier, so I'll attach that orange bungee that you see there to the door, and that really gives it a lot of velocity, and there's no question it's going to snap closed rapidly. So let me take you through how this gate panel is made, because that's really the bulk of the work on this trap. The gate panel, as I said, is 34 inches wide, and because we wanted it with a very non-obtrusive threshold, I did on my first version not have any reinforcement there at the bottom, but there was just too much flex, and so I added this rebar and attached it with these hose clamps, these small hose clamps. And securing the hose clamps even more is a bit of the JB Weld putty kind of glue adhesive, and it's rock solid. You cannot move this thing at all. So make yourself a 34 inch piece of rebar and attach it to the very bottom of the gate panel, and that will make this panel rigid, which is really important. When you're moving it around, it's really easy to bend it without having that reinforcement, so that just makes it a lot less prone to bending. So working our way up the trap, I cut a hole in each side, There will be times when the ground is frozen or rocky and you just can't get a stake in. Normally you would want to put a stake right here. If you can't get a stake in all the way, at least you can maybe, drive the stake in 4-6 inches and then secure it right there in those holes. Working our way up, we see the first of the latches. And the important thing to know about the latches is that you do need to cut an insert here in these panels. And so you'll have one full row on the bottom, and then you'll want to cut an insert for that latch there. The middle insert, I just cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows up, and then the next one 1, 2, 3, 4 rows up. So it doesn't really matter, they're just spaced approximately evenly. And so those are the latches. These are obviously simple gate latches that you can buy in any hardware store. So on the other side, we have just regular door hinges. They are 3.5 inches tall. And when you put these in, you want to make sure there's a space right there between the board and what you're attaching it to, the frame for the door. If you get this overlapping, it's going to bind and the gate won't open freely. So make sure there's a nice gap right in there and a decent sized gap on the other side as well. You don't want this door to be striking the frame at all. So the hinges, same story. They are mounted across from each of the latches. The boards themselves are attached with 1-inch fence staples. I actually had to order these because for some reason the big box stores only had the 1 1/4 inch. So look for the 1-inch staples, and those should work well for you. Lastly, at the top, there is one row that overlaps. Well, on my trap, there's one row. You would have, if you do the full 5-foot panel, your trap would come up to here, and this would strike there, which is a nice backstop for when the gate swings closed. So that's what the back of the gate looks like. Let's take a look at the front. There's really not much to the front except for this spring. This is a gate spring. When you attach it, they'll tell you to put it as vertically as possible. And they'll also say if you want more torque, you can adjust that. Oddly enough, when I adjusted it, it resulted in less spring than before, so I kind of gave up on that. But anyway, these marks here, we just sheared off the ends of the screws because they were protruding, and then repainted, touched it up a little bit. So that is, I think, really the bulk of the gate design. Just to reiterate, you really want to get that rebar in place. So I'll show you the front. This is the hose clamp, the double hose clamp with the adhesive you can see coming up through the middle, and that's really hard. So that's in there. And that's really it. You'll just want to make sure that, the braces. The braces are 70 inches from side to side. I put one approximately straight across, just behind where the door would come open, so it doesn't, hit the door. And then these other two just form an X, keeping the trap stable. You normally, doesn't matter, but if you get a big dog in there that wants to bust out, you'll be glad to have those braces. And lastly, what's not being shown here is a net. We found a nice bungee cargo net on Amazon that fits really nicely and has clips to attach to the top of the trap. One other thing about the Raytripper, when you run your Raytripper wires, go straight up instead of along the bottom, because we have found that these wires are very tempting to rabbits, and if it's really accessible to them on the ground there, they'll chew right through them. So go straight up along the top, and then when you get to the magnet, I like to secure this wire down so that it takes less stress, puts less stress on it when the magnet is flopping around after being triggered. If you want to use the bungee and get a little more snap on your door, all you have to do is just bring it around the outside of the trap and pull it as hard as you can right around that hinge. I go under it and then attach it to the gate like so. And you'll find that that gives you a whole lot more velocity on the door. So that is basically it. If people really need help, I could possibly do some short tutorials like how to, you know, grind the panel, for example, down to size. Oh, one thing I should mention is after you grind, after you cut, you want to make sure that you deburr. You want to smooth out these sharp edges because those are razor sharp. I got really tired of being cut every time I worked it with a trap. So spend some time with a Dremel tool and round those sharp edges off. When you set up this trap, you will find that the quick clips that we use for attaching the panels together, it just creates a little too much play, allows too much play right here where the gate attaches to the side. So I just use a nylon tie to snug that up. It's the side swing gate works a whole lot better when this is rigid. So tie that on both sides. I think that's pretty much what you need to know. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll fill in the missing details for you.